Hi, listeners. This episode contains quotes from the director that feature slurs against the disabled community. These slurs have been censored as we don't find the presence of them in our podcast to be appropriate. Enjoy. This is Rating Descending,
where we watch IMDb's Worst 250 so you don't have to.
My name is Abigail Ward.
And I'm Michelle St. Clair.
And this week we watched Postal. In the ironically named city of Paradise, a loser teams up with his cult-leading uncle to steal a peculiar bounty of riches from their local amusement park. The recently arrived Taliban have a similar focus, but a far more sinister intent. Let's watch.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that was one of the better written opening things.
Yeah, it should be one sentence, not two.
Yeah, I mean, none of them are true log lines.
No, they're just, who writes them?
I don't know.
Who does that?
Why, I don't feel like we've questioned that enough, really. Who writes
there's so
these?
much to question about IMDb.
Yeah, the whole framework of this show is IMDb, and you know what? We do talk about it, but I feel like we could bully it more because I feel like IMDb deserves to be bullied.
You're a fucking idiot. Your pants look dumb today. I'm sorry, man.
Is that how people bullied you in high school? Your pants look dumb today.
I didn't get bullied in high school. People just rumored and gossiped about me.
Brag.
That's all that happened. Duh. They were like, she's like gay, right? Look, that girl's totally gay and she thinks she's better than all of us. Cool.
Well, but weren't they right?
Yeah. That's not the point. Still rude. So yes, I have been the victim of abuse before. Thank you for asking. It's hard. It's hard being an aloof gay girl. What can I say?
Yeah, it always has seemed like a struggle for you.
Very difficult. Very difficult. I mean, at the time it was difficult.
Yeah, it's still
I was like
rough
16.
when you're a teenager.
Yeah. And I was like, I'm definitely not just straight, but I don't know how to express that, so I won't.
Yeah.
And it worked out great. So this is a PSA to all you young queer kids out there. If you're worried about coming out or opening up, just don't. Take a page out of my book and never emote, never connect, never open yourself up to being hurt, because that's terrible. I've gotten by perfectly okay in life by keeping every guard up at all times. You don't know shit about me.
Do you feel like you have good mental health now?
What? Come again?
Do you feel like you have...
Can't hear you.
Do you feel like it's working for you now?
Can't understand you.
Oh, let me turn
These
up the
words
gain on the
aren't-
microphone. Doesn't feel like it's working?
No. But yes.
You're safe, but you're so close to falling apart.
Well, this is just a bit too close to home. How are you, Michelle? That's our new merch as well, by the way. It's just, how are you, Michelle? And it's you there being grumpy.
That's really like the opener to the show. You know, I guess like some shows have catchphrases. Hello, everyone. Hey, you know, hi, etc.
What? Can't hear you. How are you, Michelle?
Yeah.
No, hi. Hello.
Hey.
Hello, listeners. Hello, Michelle.
I feel like we never address the listeners much. Hey, guys.
How are you guys?
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Oh
Nice.
my God. No, yeah. No, what was that like?
Oh, cool.
Oh, you know.
Yeah.
Swings and roundabouts, you know?
Yeah, I get that.
Exactly. I mean, like, you lose every shot you don't take.
Yeah,
So,
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, well, yeah, that was, yeah. Me? No, I'm not really free for the next, like, 3 or 4 weeks.
Can I come? Can I come? I can't believe I'm not.
Hear you.
I'm
What?
right here. I'm also talking.
Sorry, this is so awkward.
Oh my
Michelle, can you
God.
just, sorry, we're just having a thing.
Yeah.
So if you could just,
Okay.
do you want to, like,
Yeah, I'll go.
Okay.
I'll go.
Sorry about that. No, what were you saying? No, I know. She can be like that. Oh my God, I agree. Oh my God, that was just like so cringe. I'm so sorry. She's just so awkward like that. No, it's fine. Doesn't even matter. What were you saying?
Yeah, Mum, she was being really mean again to me.
Oh my God, that's so true.
I know you tell me I
She
should
does
stand
look like an
up to
egg
her,
from
but
certain,
it's really
certain
hard.
angles. Just
She
really
is-
eggy. Like,
Yeah.
have you ever like seen her
No,
bend
Mum,
over?
I'm not
Like
really
pure
eggy.
egg. She's just
Mum,
super
I'm not-
round.
stop calling me
Anyway,
a
this
little
is so
egg.
awkward.
This
She's
is
on the phone
exactly
with her
what
mum
she
right
does.
now.
She's
Oh my
doing
God,
the same
this is
thing
so
right
cringe.
now. I can see her. I'm looking
Anyway,
at her
I'll call
right
you back.
now.
Okay.
All right,
Bye.
she's in my vision, and she's not being nice about it. She's fucking giving me the finger. She's flashing me. She's showing me a sign that says, "Fucking kill yourself." You told her to write that? That's
Who are you
terrible.
talking to?
Just my mum.
Can I talk to your mum for a second?
No, it's
just give me the phone.
Yeah, all right. I
Just
can put her
hang
on.
on a
I can put her on. Here you go.
Oh my God, I know. Yeah.
Oh my god!
Like absolute egg. What was that?
It's a burp.
Yeah, she just burped. She looked so eggy.
Yeah.
If someone called me an egg, if they said I looked like an egg, I would never forget it. Like, I would cry over that every night. I still remember how my mum keeps saying, like, you look so much like your father. Like, I remember the first time she said that, I stayed awake all night thinking about that.
Yeah.
My father is a haggard-looking man. One time he had broken his leg and he was just sitting on a park bench with a crutch and he hadn't been able to, like, shave or take care of himself properly all week.
Yeah.
And my mum left him there. He had a coffee, he finished the coffee, put the cup on the side of the bench, and a guy walking past just flicked 20 cents into it. My dad is a haggard man,
It's the energy he gave off.
and I am a feral woman.
Yeah. You are.
There's one thing I am, it is a feral woman.
Yeah, I agree with that. You give off, not to be too much of a millennial, you give off feral energy.
Oh my God, big feral energy.
So random.
I'm actually very excited. I'm really going to embrace my big dick energy this summer, and I've ordered like some pants and overalls and stuff, and I just
some
kind
dicks?
of like, I wish. I mean, like, no, but like, I've got them. So I'm a sexual woman, Michelle. But yeah. I'm ready to embrace my big daddy feral energy this summer. Big daddy cock monster energy.
Oh, what the fuck?
Big fat fucking hog energy.
I was fine with Big Daddy Feral, but Big Daddy Cock Monster, really? You're just a big, fat fuck man.
Honestly, embrace who you are. And me, I'm a fuck man. I'm a big daddy cock monster, massive hog schlong badongy dong cock monster man.
You got a big hoggy cocky, and there's big mama jam and mommy milkers.
My big memory jammers.
That's it. It's hot.
Honestly, ideal body, having my tits, but then also a dick. That'd be fun.
Does that mean I used to have your ideal body?
Maybe. Yeah, guess so.
Wow. I feel so special.
But I mean,
I've
like
lost
big
something.
memory jammers.
Oh, okay, yeah. I do not have big.
You're part of the small
big,
titty
big
committee, and
hunky
that's
titties.
fine.
Yeah,
But
it's fine. I've come to accept my tiny titties.
speaking of tiny titties, right?
Oh, like the snacks that you used to eat as a kid.
Yeah. Also, tiny teddies really did fucking slap, by the way. Just,
They did.
Just quick diversion.
I don't-
The snacks you'd get as a kid, tiny teddies reigned supreme.
Some of them just taste like straight up milk, and I don't understand how a biscuit just tastes like.
What? Nah. Hang the fuck on.
You know, like the plain one sort of just tasted straight up like if you put malt in milk. Didn't even taste like a biscuit. It just tasted
Disagree.
like milk.
Disagree.
Straight up,
Are you
pure
thinking
milk.
about the fact that you probably ate a lot of tiny teddies with milk?
No, pure milk.
Because when I think of tiny
Pure-
teddies, I think of milk, not because they tasted like milk, but because I would dip them in milk.
If I turned milk into a solid, you'd think cheese. But no, it's actually a tiny little crispy bear.
There's so many issues with everything you're saying to me right
It's
now.
just unfiltered.
We don't even have the
raw,
time
unpasteurized
to unravel this.
milk.
You just fucking sprang this on me in
It's
my
just
segue. You
milk.
completely derailed my segue into the movie.
All I want
With
is
your
to
nonsense.
suckle on the sweet tetum of raw, unpasteurized, tiny teddy milk.
I'm calling my first child Tetum.
Channing Tatum.
Oh my god. This is Nicholas and this is Tetum. No one would bat a fucking eye.
They wouldn't.
Nah. Anyway, this week we watched Postal, which has nothing to do with itty bitty titties.
No, it doesn't. If anything, I don't think there's a single itty bitty titty.
Yeah, the film was really obsessed with big breasted women.
Yeah.
Yeah, which we'll get to. But yeah, this week we watched the 2007 film Postal.
2007?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
When watching it, in the first scene, I thought it was the 90s, and then when the end of the first scene was 9/11, spoilers for the first scene, I assumed it was like 2003 or 4. 2007. That feels late for this. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's almost as if the director couldn't actually put together a cohesive thought about 9/11, so he sat in it for a few years and then made this garbage. This was like the wildest film. I loved it.
Yeah.
Like, I would watch this again many times. This is a fun bad movie. This isn't Rings. This isn't Ouija.
It feels...
This is fun.
Like, we, for the last few weeks, have been wildly swinging between exactly why we did the podcast with Squeakquel, Hannah Montana, and this.
And you've been getting the shitty horrors.
The shit ones. Like, just the bad horrors that are nothing.
It's okay. I mean, we have like 4.5 more years of this. So right now you're in a bit of a valley and I'm peaking. But that'll turn around.
You're always just peeking all over me.
Oh, I love to peek. I just love peeking.
You get out your big mommy milkers and you peek all over me.
With
and
my
I
big
have
dick energy.
Raw, unpasteurized milk.
From your tiny tetum.
From my tiny tetum teddies.
I'm just going to give you... So like, yeah, I think we both loved this film.
Yeah.
I was enamored. I was enthralled. Yeah. I was captured. I was captivated.
Yeah.
I adored almost every moment of it because it was so ridiculous and nonsensical. I will never forget this film.
I will never forget it. I didn't like it for like the first 50 minutes because it I feel like it takes a long time to start making its point, and it feels like it's just being dumb.
The first act took forever.
Really slow. And then it kind of like, it really invites you in. Like, it really makes you want to like it. You're kind of on its side by the end.
It's like a big hug from like a big Southern woman who loves Elvis. Margot
Robbie?
No.
Margot Mortondale?
Margot Robbie is not a big Southern woman who loves Elvis.
My brain didn't even process the first part of what you said. I just heard Margot.
Robbie? Margot Mortondale.
Margot Martindale.
Martindale.
Mortondale.
Martindale.
This movie felt like Uwe Boll was just like slowly being like, come on, come in. And at first I'm like, no, I don't want to. And then he's like, no, come on. And I'm like, all right, you lovable scamp.
And then he holds you real tight, but he smells weird.
Yeah.
Like you just get a good sniff of his armpit and it doesn't smell good.
But you're like willing to let it go for now.
Yeah. Because there is like a sense of comfort in the way he's holding you.
Yeah. Because you have to be there at the beginning though. Otherwise you'll care. Because my girlfriend Brooke came in at the end and was like, this is fucking rubbish. And I'm like, you know what? If you just started now, you would think that.
She was like, this is crazy. And we turned around and we were like, it's so good. We adored it. There's a lot of stuff that I want to talk about today. By the way, I'm drinking this very delicious, like $4 rosé from Aldi, and it's really just fucked me up after like one glass.
That's
so
good.
I will attempt to run you through a couple of things about this film today, but just a couple of little facts before I launch into the overview.
Mm-hmm.
This was made in 2007. It has 4.5 stars on IMDb.
Out of 5, right?
Fucking better. It was directed by Uwe Boll, and he also wrote it, and he co-wrote it with Brian C. Knight, whoever the fuck that is. So I'm just going to give you the overview now. It's a bit fucked, and that's because the movie is nonsense.
Yeah, it's not going to sound good when we describe it.
It's also a bit long, so just bear with me, guys. It's worth it. This is a story you cannot miss.
Yeah.
The film opens with 2 Al-Qaeda terrorists piloting a hijacked plane. They squabble over how many virgins they'll get in heaven before the plane plunges into a World Trade Tower. Our protagonist, unnamed and called The Dude, lives in a trailer park with his obese wife. Out of work and out of luck, he goes through a series of bad experiences at job interviews and at home. He meets Faith at a local coffee store and vents about his shitty life to her. The Dude teams up with his Uncle Dave, a con artist turned doomsday cult leader. Dave's right-hand man Richie joins, as well as a group of girls from the cult. They devise a plan to hijack some crotchy dolls, a rare scrotum-shaped toy, and sell them online on eBay for $4,000 a doll. Are you still with us, listener? Because we just got to the inciting incident, but that took up like 40 minutes.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Al-Qaeda terrorists, who've been secretly hiding in paradise since 9/11, are after the same shipment. They plan to instill the dolls with avian flu and give them to American children. The two groups meet at the shipment's destination, a Nazi-themed amusement park called Little Germany. A shootout ensues, resulting in the death of many innocent children. The Dude and Co. get away with both the shipment and the park's opening day guest, Vern Troyer. Sorry. Upon returning to the cult compound, which has been overtaken by the terrorists, they all sneak into the underground bunker. Richie turns on them to fulfill the prophecy in Uncle Dave's fictional Bible. Vern Troyer is thrown into a pit of chimpanzees. Richie kills Uncle Dave and imprisons the Dude. The Dude manages to escape the compound. Pursued by an angry mob, he slaughters anyone in his way. He finds and teams up with Faith before a shootout in the trailer park. The Dude and Faith proceed to kill all the terrorists, as well as most of the bloodthirsty townspeople. The Dude and Faith drive away in a stolen police car. They turn on the radio, only to learn that 30 nuclear missiles are heading towards America from China. President Bush and Osama bin Laden skip through a field together, hand in hand, as the missiles hit. That's the movie. Couldn't explain it in a more cohesive way because it's rubbish. It's so good.
It's so, like, to get it out of the way, the most striking thing about it for me is it felt like it was from a different era, like that Bush era. Like, I want to say you couldn't make it now, and I don't mean, oh, political correctness is too bad now. What I mean is that, like, you know, in this, there's a Nazi-themed theme park because Bush was bad, but he wasn't inciting a fascist coup. Like, it wasn't as real.
Yeah.
So it was part of this era where, like, Bush felt like the worst president.
I was literally going to say, like, it felt like a simpler time.
Yeah.
Which sounds fucked.
Yeah.
But comparing to what's been happening in the last 5 years, it was a simpler time. And
it was like, you were criticizing Al-Qaeda because of the terrorist acts, not just because you secretly hated all Muslims. You know, like, they are extremists.
There's so many weird things about this film. Like, that plot is crazy, and I can't wait to delve into some of our favorite moments in it. But I want to touch on the director first.
Yeah.
I want to get him out of the way because he was what interested me the most about this film.
I feel like I've heard of his name before.
Uwe Boll.
I feel like I've heard of him.
The thing is, I couldn't tell you a lot of the other films that he's done because all of them have been trash and a lot of them didn't really hit a lot of mainstream culture. However, two of his other films are on our list.
Oh.
Much lower.
Oh.
There's one that was called, actually I'll get to it in a second.
That's interesting.
But there was one of it that's called Alone in the Dark, and I think it's like 2.4 stars.
Oh, Jesus.
And 40,000 reviews. And there was another one as well that I've got here somewhere.
Fucking Christ, that's one of the lowest.
It's a lot. Also, by the way, Alone in the Dark is considered one of the worst films ever made and is really high on a lot of lists as well.
Wow.
Like, it's quite notably bad.
Yeah.
More so than Postal or almost like a lot of the films that we've done so far, I guess. Where's the other one?
Yeah, we're going to hit this. Like, I feel like there's going to be this point where the script is going to flip and it's just going to be a collection of the most famous bad movies. But we're going to be like 3 years in.
Yeah.
So, audience, please stick around. You know, I want you in a few years to say to other people, yeah, you know, you can like start listening. Like, you know, for like a few hundred episodes, it's not great, but that last 75 is fucking.
So with Uwe Boll, he's a very like divisive figure.
Yeah.
He really likes to shock and scare and upset, which is very evident in this film because Postal was all about like violence and fuck you America.
Yeah.
And it was just him trying to like twist the knife as much as possible, but like it doesn't pay off because it's not smart, it's not informed, he's not really saying anything except
yeah.
I don't know, it's very much like a Borat, but far worse.
Yeah.
Because even Borat had like a semblance of something he was trying to say. And to be honest, If I rewatch Borat now, I think I'd think of it quite positively.
Like, it wasn't until later that I got the joke of Borat, which is that it's a joke on the Americans, but I wish he didn't throw genuine Central Asians under the bus in that process.
Exactly. But there is still like a semi-intelligent thought behind it.
Yeah.
This didn't have that. It was almost just like this guy that had the idea of offending people and was like, I'm going to offend Americans. I don't know how, but I'm going to do it. So I'm going to write this weird thing based around the attacks on 9/11, but not really.
Yeah. I guess, like...
And form a weird plot around it based on a video game. Because this film was based on a first-person shooter.
I can't believe we haven't even addressed that
Yeah,
yet.
I should have gotten that out of the way straight away.
That first-person shooter, which I know a little bit more about, but not enough to really talk about, but it's also famously bad and divisive. Like, people think it's bad and awful and weird and aggressive, and it was part of a cultural conversation around video game violence for a while.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So this guy, Uwe Boll, has done a lot of films based on video games. He's made a lot of films. So just as some general background history, which I did not write down here, it's all coming out of the memory bank.
Oh.
Born in 1965 in Germany. He wanted to become a filmmaker at the age of 10, and it was after he watched the film Mutiny on the Bounty, the 1962 Marlon Brando film. And by the way, when I read that today, I got a little bit sidetracked and I started researching Mutiny on the Bounty, the 1962 film, to find out what inspired this young filmmaker. That film got panned. That film was a disaster, and it was because it had Marlon Brando, who destroyed another film set. So you know how a couple of weeks ago I told you about the cursed production of The Island of Dr. Moreau? Also, any new listeners, if you haven't listened to that episode, go back and listen to it because it's fucking wild. But Marlon Brando, did the same shit in the 1962 production of Mutiny on the Bounty, where a group of very talented, creative people came together with the intention of making a beautiful film. And he had an ego trip and just pretty much spited everyone around him, demanded unreasonable things, and then pretty much made everyone want to leave. Like, made everyone have, like, an emotional breakdown on set. The whole set was, like, plagued by, like, weather issues and, like, hurricanes and typhoons. And also, he kept demanding that the plot get rewritten just on the day. He was like, I don't like that line. I'll do my own line. He was acting alongside Richard Harris and Trevor Howard.
We should do a bonus episode on this because we got to get back to talk about Postal, but I also really want to hear about this.
This is just fascinating. All I want to say is that this was like a cursed production that Marlon Brando destroyed by antagonizing the people around him, alienating the people around him, and the film came out completely subpar. I adore the fact that Uwe Boll's favorite film, the film that inspired him to be a filmmaker, was that film because it really it's so foreboding.
Yeah, it's telling that that's what inspired him. Yeah. He's like, films are rubbish.
Exactly. But that's Uwe Boll, and he ended up making a lot of films completely self-funded via a tax loop in Germany.
What?
Yeah, and he publicly bragged about it, and in 2006 they ended that tax loop.
I love that,
the government
though.
were like, holy shit, he's able to make films because he's investing in other films and he's getting a 50% return from investing in other films. So he was just fucking racking up all this money to start making his own.
Yeah.
It's a complicated process, but the German government, pretty much as soon as Uwe Boll started bragging about it publicly, they were like, holy shit, we need to get rid of that.
It sounds like in Australia we have the producer Offset. It sounds like it's similar, but the amount is much higher.
It's much higher. It's a huge return. So they ended it, and Uwe Boll hasn't really been making films since because, notoriously, all of his films have a tiny return of profit. For instance, the film that we're talking about tonight,
oh, Jesus.
He made it for $15 million.
That's a lot.
The worldwide box office.
Oh, boy.
$146,000.
Oh, my God.
Correct.
Oh my God.
It came out the same week that Indiana Jones and is it the
Kingdom of the Crystal Skull?
Yeah, the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
Is it And the Crystal Skull or Kingdom of the Crystal Skull?
I can't remember. All I remember was that Cate Blanchett tore it up and the rest of the film sucked.
Oh yeah, they were trying to make Shia LaBeouf new Indiana Jones.
And no one took to it.
Yeah.
It came out the same week as that fateful Indiana Jones film, and Uwe Boll repeatedly said, my film's going to crush it. My film is going to tear that shit up. And it bombed.
Like, he knows that's funny. Like, he knows that's
he's all
funny.
about publicity
Like,
stunts.
I love him.
I think this guy is, exactly, I think he's crazy, but I feel like in real life, he's quite a normal person. And everything he does is to make a mark and to get known. And I respect that.
You know what I think is interesting? He seems to fit a mold that I feel bad about putting him in, of like, you know, comedians who get off on controversy, who like to intentionally say controversial shit. And a lot of those people now are going like, oh, political correctness is killing comedy because I'm not allowed to be racist and homophobic. Whatever.
Racism and homophobia are killing comedy, motherfucker. Anyway.
Uwe Boll seems like that same category, but there's something about the way he's doing it that makes me on his side. Like, when he's doing Hitler jokes, normally I'd be like, but I'm like, well, he's German.
That's the thing. I was like, it's hard to take this as an offense because he's just making fun of himself.
He's making fun of himself, Germany, and Nazism. Like, he's not promoting it.
This is what we found about the film, and this is why we ended up liking it. It has these real threads of like proper comedy and like things that are genuinely funny. Like, the idea of something is funny. He creates scenes that are inherently funny, but he doesn't know how to execute them well. Yeah, so it falls flat.
It's like some of the things we've reviewed so far, I've referred to as being like all set up, no punchline.
Yeah.
This is similar, but there's like the first half of a punchline. So you start laughing and then it doesn't let you finish.
100%. So yeah, and Uwe Boll, so his filmmaking career is generally divided into two distinct phases. The first consists of big budget films with a usually very like well-known, respected cast.
Yeah.
Most of which received highly negative reviews from critics and gained him a reputation as a schlock maestro. Alone in the Dark is like considered the magnum opus of that part of his career.
He sounds like who's the Plan 9 from outer space? What's his name?
Neil Blomkamp.
Yeah. Neil Blomkamp.
The South African one about the prawns.
Yeah.
That was good. I liked it, actually.
Yeah.
Didn't understand
I was surprised that people put it on the worst movies ever made. I didn't even recognize Bela Lugosi as the monster.
Bela Lugosi, actually, is how you pronounce it.
Yeah, I just don't know how to speak. Why are we doing this accent from
I just love movies.
What's his name? Fucking Ed Wood. He's like if Ed Wood was self-aware.
I have a good reference to Ed Wood later for you.
Oh, thank God. Amazing.
Really just ties it up for me. His second phase of filmmaking was with a smaller budget, independently made, and starring lesser-known actors. Right. And with different approaches to filmmaking. Boll's Rampage film series was better received by critics. He did a whole, I think it was a 6-movie series. And critics were like, oh, shit. He's actually figured out how to make films now.
Yeah.
They're not great, but they're, passable. And that's huge for him. So he ended up, getting it in the end. And then weirdly enough, he also became a restaurateur. So he gave up filmmaking and he became he started owning all these restaurants around Germany and went into cooking. And
cool.
And then in 2020, he announced that he was going to return to filmmaking, which is very exciting.
Maybe he was just playing the long game. He just needed more money.
Honestly, yeah. I think he set up his restaurateur business just so he could make more money and make more weird films. I mean, again, he lost his tax loop because he bragged about it.
Yeah. But I love that he didn't go it's a secret. He went nah, this is stupid, right?
The reason that I think this guy might also be well adjusted is just because there's a couple of things about his personal life that seem very favorable.
Yeah.
I mean, he's had a wife for a very long time. He has a kid and a stepkid and they live a quiet life together. And I'm I feel like he's a normal, well-adjusted man who's obsessed with making an insane mark on the filmmaking world. And it's not a good mark, but he just wants to be present and do shit. And I love that.
If he was in your family barbecue, he'd be your favorite uncle.
Oh, 100%. You know? As it is now, my favorite uncle is Bruce. Shout out to Bruce. He's a bitch and we like to sit in a corner and gossip about the whole family every Christmas Eve. It's the best. So that's his little career, right? Also, House of the Dead is also on the list. That's the other one. House of the Dead.
Oh, that sounds familiar.
Video Hound's Golden Movie Retriever described Boll, and I think Golden Movie Retriever is one of their critics, described Boll as a cinematic train wreck of a person.
I'm looking forward
Both
to
of
it.
them, both The House of the Dead and Alone in the Dark, are in the bottom 100.
Oh my God.
That's how far down they
It's
are.
going to be during the home run.
Yeah. So one of us is going to return to Uwe Boll, maybe twice.
I'm keen.
Also, Boll received a rare Worst Career Achievement award at the 29th Golden Raspberry Awards in 2009.
Prediction at this point of the podcast, this is going to be our longest episode. There's so much to we haven't even started talking about the movie.
I had to delve into him first.
You're right, though.
That's the
You're
guy that
right.
we're handling, like that whose film we're talking about
Yeah.
today. Just as a bit of background for you. There's more stuff I want to return to, but I think we should launch into some of the film
Yeah.
stuff. Because the one I want to talk about next with Boll is the fact that he really likes to challenge any critic of his to a fist fight. But we'll talk about that
Hey.
later. Big Abigail energy.
Big Abigail energy.
I've always wanted to brawl with Tom Green, but I'm happy to brawl with Uwe Boll,
Yeah.
Boll in my backyard, completely naked at midnight. So hit me up.
Yeah.
But there's a couple things I did want to talk about with this film.
Yes, please.
I wanted to talk about, just really quickly, the structure of the movie,
Yeah.
because it's bananas.
It's nothing.
The first 20 or 30 minutes of it is just us going through his weird life in paradise and
Yeah.
how shit it is. He has a morbidly obese wife that's really mean to him. He's unemployed. He goes for a job interview. They turn him down in a really cruel way. He's just this dude. And by the way, Zach Ward is the guy that plays the protagonist.
Yeah.
Zach Ward is the name of my brother, which is a bit
Yeah.
confronting. But he's done virtually nothing else. I mean, he has appeared in a lot of stuff, but
I saw his performance. I get why.
apparently he auditioned for the role of Officer Greg,
Oh, the German officer or the black officer?
the German officer.
Okay, yeah.
Surely.
Well,
But I mean, in the script, the
was
black
double-checking.
officer is called the N-word, so I'm pretty sure he had to be a black officer.
yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
But he auditioned for the white officer, and apparently Boll was just captivated by this very average looking man. He was like, he must be my Postal dude.
He looks like the protagonist of the video game.
Yeah. I looked up the video game and I was like, yeah, okay. I get it.
He has that vibe. Maybe I also thought it was made much, much earlier because of his wraparound sunglasses he wears at one point. That really makes it look like it's from 1995.
Yeah. The whole film has a weird feel, but I like it.
It does.
It does feel out of this world.
It stands out amongst all the other movies in this.
But the structure, the story doesn't take off
Yeah.
until we're 40 minutes in.
Yeah.
And it takes off when finally the dude goes up to his Uncle Dave, who is a cult leader, played by Dave Foley? Doug Foley. Dave Foley. Played by Dave Foley. And that's when they hatch this bizarre plan to steal a bunch of crotchies, which is a toy. And you're like, okay, finally something's happening, but I don't get why it's happening.
Yeah.
I don't get why they had this idea. And it still doesn't feel like a video game. It's based on a video game. And nothing feels like a video game yet. It feels like you're still in the tutorial section where you're walking around town, but you're not even shooting anyone yet.
Yeah.
And he also has this weird interaction at the bank where all these people are getting shot at a bank because everyone else is going postal in paradise.
That was kind of funny.
It was.
It was kind
That's
of funny.
what fucked me up. This film made me laugh several times, genuinely, because I was like,
Yeah.
that's a funny idea. Everyone's
funny.
getting shot at the bank and he's crawling around trying to get someone else's
it wasn't-
ticket so he can actually go first.
It wasn't the bank. It was the DMV, which is why I thought it was funny. Is because the DMV.
the doctor's marital vampire.
Well, it's like the road maritime service. And in America, it famously doesn't work very well. And I thought it was very funny that manifested as during
any
a
of
robbery,
those-
he's still just trying to get up in the line.
I don't think in any country any of those services work very well. If there's any
Yeah.
public service that people notoriously hate to wait at, it's anything to do with cars and roads.
Yeah.
That's where everyone gets stuck in waiting room hell. But yeah, it had some funny moments. And then once they devise that plan, the rest of the film just shoots by. Because it is actually them taking action to get the crotchy
Yeah.
dolls. And then you find out that Al-Qaeda are also after the same item but for a different reason, to spread avian flu in America.
They refer to the package, they need it, or the shipment earlier, which is why when they introduce it, when Uncle Dave introduces it, I'm like, oh, here it is. Because for me, the main thing is that they're introducing and setting up all these different plot lines. There's 3 scenes about Al Qaeda. There's 2 scenes about Uncle Dave. There's a couple scenes with the postal guy. There's the police officers, like all these different forces that have nothing to do with each other until postal guy and Uncle Dave are like, oh, okay, so we're going to steal these things. And now I'm like, okay, we're starting to bridge it.
Exactly.
Now it's coming together.
Exactly. And like the structure was pretty much absent. Like there was like a climax.
Yeah.
And technically there was a low point as well because like he gets imprisoned by Richie who turns on them and Richie kills Dave in the best scene I've ever watched of any film ever. It's where Dave and Richie passionately make out before Richie's going to shoot him. And then Dave's like, oh my God, I'm gay.
It's not played like it is a joke that he's coming out, but it's not played as it's funny that he's gay.
Yeah.
It's played as it's funny that they're in this tense moment and he's having what is played as a really genuine moment of self-revelation that we know is going to end in catastrophe. Like it's played so heartwarming towards Dave.
100%. You love it. And then when he ends up getting shot by Richie, he slumps down, he grabs a woman's breast and he goes, I'm bi.
Yeah.
And then he dies. And you're like, I love that.
I think it's those things that make me like it because it could have easily just been, oh, it's funny that he's gay and it's punching down. And this doesn't feel like it's punching down.
It's making fun of the situation.
Yeah.
It's not making fun of him being gay.
Exactly.
And that's the thing. I know Uwe Boll has set out to make this wildly offensive film, but it actually at no point felt offensive. We have watched so many other films on this list that have felt absolutely like derogatory towards certain minorities.
Yeah.
This never felt that way because it felt like the whole time, and that was also the problem with it. It didn't feel like a proper satire because he was trying so hard.
Yeah.
That was also the mistake.
This movie was everything Tom Green wanted to do and Freddy Got Fingered. Like,
yeah.
I felt like Freddy Got Fingered was Tom Green going, I'm going to be a real shithead, and me having a bad time. And this was Uwe Boll going like, fuck it. This is kind of weird, right? And I'm like, yeah, it is.
Also, the cast of this was genuinely quite good.
Kind of was.
Like,
outside of Postal Guy,
Zach Ward, who was very average, it had some really good cameos.
Yeah.
Like, it had fucking Dave Foley playing Uncle Dave, and he's from Kids in the Hall, right? He's part of the Canadian sketch group.
Yeah, I love Kids in the Hall.
He's a notable comedian.
Fucking fun. He's 100% the funniest part of Kids in the Hall.
And he was the funniest part of this film.
Yeah.
Like, every scene with Dave Foley, you were like, oh shit, he's a proper well-trained comedic actor. He's carrying every scene.
Yeah.
But also it had, like, people that, like I think it was Chris Coppola, or Coppola, however you want to say it, played Richard or Richie. And you said that he was John Lovitz's nephew, and I 100% agree.
His performance was very much, I'm going to do this, and it felt very John Lovitz.
It also had Vern Troyer guest starring. Mini-Me from Austin Powers.
I will say, maybe the only parts that I would point and go, yeah, this is a little genuinely offensive is Vern Troyer, because I feel like Vern Troyer and Warwick Davis are like in competition because every step forward for little people that Warwick Davis takes, Vern Troyer insists on pulling them back.
Vern Troyer is dead. So
yeah.
At this point, the rivalry no longer exists. He ended up, his death was ruled as a suicide.
Yeah.
Like, I had to do a bit of research because I was actually interested. And a lot of them are like, he died. And I'm like, yeah, but how did he die? And I looked it up and they believe it was suicide.
I'm glad you brought that up immediately following me knocking his entire career. I feel like a real jerk.
He's dead, Michelle.
Come
That's
on.
so interesting that you think he's useless.
Come on.
He's
come
dead.
on.
No, it also had David Huddleston, who's notable as the Big Lebowski from the Big Lebowski.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Just sitting on the street.
Yeah. He and a guy who was in Flight of the Conchords were just like sitting there in a couple scenes just commenting on it.
Yeah.
They're like the Muppets, the two Muppets who are like, oh, here we are watching the whole thing.
It also had J.K. Simmons.
Yes.
Like, as like this politician. I think it was Candidate Wells.
Yeah.
And he ad-libbed every line.
He nailed it. He was playing like his cadence and delivery was conservative politician on the street telling you how the world is ending. But then you listen to it and it's all very like anti-America, anti-imperialist. It's great.
I think one of his lines was, the people that died in 9/11 weren't heroes, they were victims. They're just victims. And I was like, fuck.
Yeah.
This came out like...
Because he was talking about how, like, they're bankers. Why are they now heroes?
Yeah. I kind of agree. Anyway, and then, of course, there was also... So this blew my mind the whole time. Osama bin Laden was the funniest character to me.
He kind of was.
He was like, there was a bit where he's like at a little conference.
He has
He's
an
learning
American
about how to
accent.
he's learning about how to like dominate your employees. He's at like a little like in doing it. At the end, he calls Bush to come save him. And then he's just like, he's on a payphone to Bush and he's like, hey, Georgie, I wish I could quit you. And he hangs up. And it made me burst out laughing.
Yeah, they have kind of the better, of the two main romances, the better done one.
Yeah.
Of him and George W. Bush.
But what blew my mind, do you know who played Osama?
Who?
I was like, the whole time I was like, that guy is so familiar.
I thought that too. Who was it?
His name is Larry Thomas. He's the soup Nazi from Seinfeld.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
Ah!
Yeah.
From Nazis to Osama, man.
Larry Thomas as a person, just done a brief research about who he is. Sounds great.
Yeah.
He seems like a real cool dude. A lot of right-wing, like, organizations have tried to use soup Nazi imagery for their stuff, and he's like, get that the fuck off your image. Like, get that off your slogans, get that off your logos. I am not part of that. He's a cool dude.
It does kind of suck. You know, this is old news, but in 2021, we have to go like, oh, someone's anti-Nazi? Good for them. Because that used to be the default for a while. Now we have to go, they are extra good because they're not a Nazi.
The bar is so low in 2021. Also, I wanted to touch on the fact that, yeah, it's based on a video game.
Yeah.
But it didn't feel like a video game.
Not
until the third act.
Yeah.
Where he busts out of the compound basement and he goes after everyone. Like, his mission is just to kill everybody. He's like, I'm going to get Al-Qaeda. I'm going to get the township. I'm going to get my fat wife and all the people that she's been fucking. And you're like, all right, dude. And he goes out with all these weapons and he just starts shooting everyone.
Yeah.
He even hides behind a dumpster. You're like, okay, now I'm in a video game.
Yeah.
And it felt super stylized.
He takes cover, like...
But you only get that in the third act.
Well, I feel like even before that, like, it feels like a sneak mission when he's sneaking through the compound. Like, it feels... And the big...
True.
So, for me, like, the movie split in two halves. Like, it's all set up for this centerpiece at Little Germany, which is where all of the different sides come in conflict. There's a big shootout with a lot of close-ups of children getting shot in particular, and then they all scramble. That, like, I felt like it was getting more and more video gamey every scene.
True. No, that's a good point. And also in that scene, with the children getting massacred, that's at the Little Germany township in Paradise, which is where Uwe Boll makes a cameo.
Yes.
As a German man talking about how he makes things with Nazi gold. And he like pays people with like gold teeth, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
So good. So dumb.
When the host of because he's there for an interview talking about being a director of movies, and the guy who's interviewing him is shocked at his revelation that he finances his movies with Nazi gold and is proud of it. There's this pause, and then he's like, I get really horny up here, you know?
Especially looking at all the children. That's what he says.
I feel like...
And the guy's like, are you fucking kidding?
That, and then, like, 2 minutes later, there's a guy who's, like, looks like a big mascot, and then he takes his head off, and he's like, you ruined my video game, and it's the creator of the Postal video game, and then he goes to tackle Uwe Boll on stage, and for me, that's when I was like, I get it now. Like, up until that point, I was like, it's loose, and I don't know what it's doing, but now I was like, I get it. You're ruining this movie on purpose because you think it's funny.
The last thing I wanted to talk about, by the way, was just the treatment of women in this film, because usually I'd be like, this is barbaric, but again, there's something about the tone of Uwe Boll where I'm like, I know you're trying to be barbaric, so it doesn't feel offensive. Like, these are cheap shots like being made. Like, all of the women in the fucking movie are like blonde with big tits, and it's a very like 2000s body type where everyone's very straight. Like, all the women are very straight and skinny. It's definitely like the after effect of the heroin chic age of the late 90s, early 2000s, and they've all got like fucking blonde hair, big boobs, and they're like the little like cronies for our good guys, and they're from the cult, and they're all in love with Dave and want to suck his dick. And it's stupid, but again, I wasn't necessarily outraged because this film was designed to outrage with a pure intent to outrage, so it's not offensive because it didn't feel like this is what Uwe Boll really felt or believed. It was just him trying to get a reaction out of people. But even so, it was obviously full of sexism regardless. And the main love interest, Faith, which you called a knockoff Kat Dennings, was so bland and so badly written, like every other character. She's a terrible romantic lead.
I thought that was more sexist than the blonde bimbos.
Yeah, exactly. So I want to go back to Uwe Boll for a second.
That's totally fine.
Uwe Boll is such a figure, such a personality. So as part of a publicity stunt for Postal, Boll released a video claiming that he is the only genius in the whole fucking movie business, and that other directors such as Michael Bay and Eli Roth are fucking in his own words. He promised that his film Postal would be way better than all that social critic George Clooney bullshit that you get every fucking weekend. Bay responded to the fucking comment by calling Boll a sad being and stated that he did not care in the slightest about the remark. In 2008, Boll responded to Bay's not caring about Boll comment. To prove who is the better director, Boll offered to challenge Bay to a boxing match at Mandalay Bay in Las Vegas. If Bay accepted, the match would last for 12 rounds and would take place in September. In response to Boll's offer, Bay again posted a statement, this time saying, "I've never even heard his name until last week when he made threats and rants. This guy is a fucking idiot. He's making threats to me, Clooney, Eli Roth, and says he has a doctorate, but uses the word in his vocabulary. Come on." When you look at his videos, what is interesting are the backgrounds. I guess his low-rent offices with 15-year-old three-quarter machines, archaic computers. This is just some dumb chump trying to get some fame when he has none. So he has to make YouTube lame quality anger rants. This guy just wants attention because he can't get any for the so-called movies he makes. Nothing sadder when he has had his screenings in LA to over half-empty movie houses.
How, like...
So Bay just, like, went off at him.
How does Michael, like, how does Michael... It sounds like he gets it, but he doesn't get it. Like, I don't...
They're both terrible people.
Yeah, I want to make it clear. I don't think either of us think Uwe Boll is a good person.
No, yeah, exactly. But he keeps getting into fights, which I want to come back to when I get to my little review section.
Sure. I'm still, like... Why would you respond? Like, it's so clearly a bit. It's so clearly a bit. Like, nowadays it'd be weaponized.
It really didn't come across as a bit. He just called him a fucking So I think if I saw that, I'd be like, that doesn't feel like a bit.
No, I mean, challenging him to a fist fight, to a boxing match for 12 rounds. And then Michael Bay's like, why is he challenging me? Sounds like he's nothing. I'm like, how do you not get the bit, but describe the bit?
Do you want to hear some trivia before I launch into the insane reviews of this?
I would love nothing more.
There was a lot.
Yeah.
But I whittled down the best of the best. According to Uwe Boll, in several interviews and the DVD's audio commentary, no big agencies wanted their stars in this movie. Vern Troyer, Dave Foley, Larry Thomas, Soup Nazi, and J.K. Simmons came to the casting call against their agents' wishes because they wanted to be part of the movie. In reverse, Rob Schneider, Jamie Kennedy, David Cross, and Sarah Silverman were approached, but they really didn't want to get involved with the movie. About 90% of the actors who played the Taliban... Oh, did you want to say something?
I was going to say, of that list, Sarah Silverman is the only one I would say is really above that.
Yeah.
I can see David Cross or Jamie Kennedy. Like
Rob Schneider,
Rob Schneider and Jamie Kennedy are not above Postal.
No, that's true. Do you think we're above Postal?
No, we're not in movies.
About 90% of the actors who played the Taliban are Jewish.
See, that's what I mean. That's funny.
Yeah.
That makes it funny. That's like, it's like Taika Waititi playing Hitler. He's a fucking Polynesian Jew playing Hitler. That's the joke.
Uwe Boll considers this the most important of his movies. Which probably isn't saying much.
Important is a strong word.
Ron Perlman was considered for the role of Uncle Dave before Dave Foley was cast. And I love that because we have encountered Ron Perlman before
We have.
in The Island of Dr. Moreau,
Love that.
playing the blind priest to walk on two legs. That's pretty hard.
Look, Ron Perlman is a better actor than Dave Foley, but I don't think he's as funny. Dave Foley was
Dave Foley killed it.
perfect choice in this. Just sleazy enough, but just likable enough.
Uwe Boll shot only 3 to 5 takes of every scene. He thought that comedy's biggest strength is the emotion behind the acting, which cannot be maintained when there are too many takes. On the 28th of August 2013, Boll announced he was funding a production of a sequel through Kickstarter. The project was cancelled on the October the 5th due to lack of funding. When Zach Ward wears a stolen police uniform, the nameplate says D Ward, which stands for Dude Ward. Ward is a great surname, Zach. Well done.
He's really made it.
One last piece of trivia. In June of 2006, Uwe Boll publicly announced a challenge to his numerous critics to put up or shut up. Based on certain criteria, Boll would select 5 of his harshest critics to fight in a series of multi-rounding boxing matches to be held in Vancouver and broadcast over the internet. He planned to use footage from these fights in his movie, but that didn't fit the plot, so the idea was dropped. It's claimed that they might be part of the DVD when it's released.
Big Abigail Ward energy.
Thank you so
Big
much.
Abigail Ward. What you're going to do as a screenwriter is you're going to write a movie. It's going to get terrible reviews. You're going to say, I'll fucking fight you.
Mm-hmm.
But the reason you'll get bad reviews is, I don't know, it'll be like queer positive, and then the Australian is like, it's ruining the country.
It'll have any plot whatsoever. Like
Yeah.
good structure.
Daily Mail's going to go, fuck you.
So I'm going to go into the reviews section. As I mentioned, this film, the budget was $15 million, and it grossed $146,741 worldwide.
Really punches you in the gut.
This is the worst statistic I think we've encountered so far.
The only statistic, like, the only reason it didn't totally knock the wind out of me is because I've before seen the budget and return for animated classic Food Fight, which was made for between $40 and $70 million and had a box office return of $75,000.
Yes. I love it so
Both
much.
higher and lower.
I still need to see that movie.
It's really bad.
So, reviews. As with many of Boll's films, the film garnered largely negative reviews. It received a 7% approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes. We're talking 4.5 stars on IMDb. If the same was for IMDb, it would be 0.7 out of 10 on IMDb. That's how low it gets in Rotten Tomatoes. It's so weird how the scales are so different between Rotten Tomatoes and IMDb.
Well, that's also a really similar Rotten Tomatoes score and IMDb rating as Ouija.
Yeah, but think about how Hannah Montana was the exact same.
Yeah.
Hannah Montana had like 44% on Rotten Tomatoes and 4.5 on IMDb.
I feel like IMDb's rating is weighted towards the middle.
Yeah.
Because if something has a lot of 10 stars and a bunch of 1 stars, it doesn't get a 7, it gets like a 4.
Yeah.
You know?
The site's critics' consensus reads, an attempt at political satire that lacks any wit or relevance. Postal is nonetheless one of Uwe Boll's more successful films for what that's worth. This is a review from Nathan Rabin from the AV Club.
Okay.
With Postal, Boll clearly set out to make history's most offensive, hateful movie. As is his custom, he failed spectacularly. True.
I feel like by this point, though, there were already a lot of really quite offensive movies.
Yeah.
Like, that wasn't a new genre in 2007. Post 9/11, Americans were obsessed with 9/11 movies, but also as like bringing up 9/11 and Osama as a comedic figure. Which I don't know what that was about. That was so weird.
Here's another review from John Anderson from Newsday. Convinced that Arab terrorists are inherently hilarious and that shooting fish in the leaky barrel of American pop culture takes marksmanship, Boll is a bore and a symptom of something sad and dehumanizing. Here is a review from Elizabeth Weitzman from the New York Daily News. Ed Wood never had it so good.
Hey.
Hey.
There's our boy.
When Wired published a negative review of Postal, Boll responded with an email claiming that the critic didn't understand anything about movies. This is a review of Boll's review. He said, "You don't understand anything about movies. You're an untalented wannabe filmmaker with no balls and no understanding of what Postal is. You don't see courage because you are nothing. So go to your mom and fuck her because she cooks for you now since 30 years, so she deserves it."
What?
That's Boll on his review published by Wired.
I just okay. Here's the. I feel like there's two potential possibilities that drastically change my opinion of Uwe Boll. One, he genuinely feels that sentiment. In which case, what a fucking idiot! Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? But then there's. It is a bit. He's doing it because it's such a weird fucking thing to do, and that's kind of really
I think
funny.
he's all about publicity stunts, personally.
I refuse to believe that he said that and it was published and that it was genuine. Like,
I have one last review for you, and it's from IMDb. It is called 10 Points from Germany. It was left by Trigger 1980. And it was left in 2007 when the film came out. I just came from the cinema. There was a viewing of Postal. So I must say, really, the film has very much become very cool. 1,000 times better than one supposes. I find the Postal atmosphere really very well caught. The dude slides from a coded situation in the next. Everything is nicely politically incorrect, with Bin Laden, Bush, to whacked children, driven babbies. This would be for what, bud? This is nonsense. A lot of taboo breaks and much of power. I am a big fan of the video game too. I've ordered the fudge pack for me. Woohoo! 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 10 out of 10. I love IMDb. I spent so much time as a teenager on IMDb. But that's all the information I have for you on Postal.
Wow.
And we will be returning to Uwe Boll twice.
Oh,
so
my God.
I'm excited.
I mean, if they're worse than this, amazing, because this is already really bad. This is what I got into this industry for.
Yes.
This industry being bad movie commenting.
This is why you are legally obliged to continue this quest with
It's
me.
why I signed the incredibly strict contract with
Draconian contract.
IMDb Incorporated.
Yes, correct.
Yeah. It's why CEO of IMDb, Jeff IMDb, came personally to my house, held me down by my neck and said, sign this, and I'm your daddy.
He's actually European. It's Imde.
Oh, sorry. Jeff Imde?
Imde.
Yeah, I think he's from Europe.
That beautiful country.
Love that. That's why my accent was from Europe.
What would you give this movie out of 10?
That's a tough one. Do I rate it out of my personal enjoyment or do I
Yes.
rate it what it deserves?
Both. Find a middle ground.
Well, I think my personal enjoyment is that this is it's certainly maybe the second best that we've watched. At least top 5. You know, It, Ra 1, Vampire in Brooklyn, you know, like some of those ones that are kind of like good. But you know, like it is bad. Like the first half was really washy until we got to that midpoint, and then I was like, now I'm in. You know, it took too long to click. You know, but then also like what it deserves is probably like a 3 or 2. So I'm gonna give it maybe like a 5.
Wow, that's high.
For the opposite reason that of our standard, which is a completely bland movie, it is both exactly what it wants to be, which is the mark of successful art, but it's also not very good.
I would give it I'm just going to go from the heart. I'm going to give it a 4 out of 10.
No, I think that's fair.
Yeah.
I think that's more fair
It's
than
lower
5.
than IMDb scoring. It's more than what it deserves.
Yeah.
It's a stupid film. Don't get us wrong. It's stupid. Don't go out of your way for it. But if you're looking for a bad film, something to enjoy that's nuts and might actually also make you laugh, it's so worth it.
Yeah. And you got to really go with it.
Yeah.
You know?
But that was Postal. We're running out of time. This has been a long one.
It has been a long one. I told you, I predict it would be our longest.
This has been Postal. What are we watching next week, Michelle?
So obvious.
You fucking better have it ready, because, like, we're on the clock now. Fuck. This rosé's fucked me up.
Yeah, next week we are watching The Butterfly Effect 2. God. Yeah, so, you know, I'm really excited. I didn't see the first one, but, you know,
Join us next week.